In the spring of 2007, my mom claimed to have been diagnosed with breast cancer. In the fall of that year, we went to Ireland, which is where she grew up and where most of her family lives, to kind of have a last hurrah before her breasts were removed. It was kind of an awkward trip. There was a weird mood in the air, and I didn't understand what was going on until the last night before our plane left. One of my aunts was like talking to my mom and was like, "Are you sure you're gonna go through with this? I mean," and she was just stating all of these things as to why my mom shouldn't do it, and I was just sitting there confused because my mom had told me that she had breast cancer, and anyone, when they think cancer, is remove it right away, as soon as you can, as soon as the doctor says yes, do it, as soon as you get the money, whatever. So I was kind of confused, and then my mom and I went back to my grandparents' house where we were staying. We left my aunt's house, she was kind of in a fit, both of them, and when we got to my grandparents' house, she just laid on her bed there and cried and was like, "I'm never coming back here again, I'm never visiting them again," and I just sat with her and just listened to her, and I was confused as to why they were questioning someone that had something as serious as cancer. But then it kind of dawned on me that my mom might have a problem. When I was younger, from a baby onward, my mom was always in and out of the hospital. She always had like cabinets upon cabinets in our kitchen with medications of every kind. Some expired 6 years prior, and it was just nothing to me to see someone go into the hospital because my mom was always going all the time. I guess when my dad started dating my stepmom when I was like 6, my stepmom was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer, and my brother and I visited her in the hospital when she was getting stuff down there removed, and we didn't really show any remorse. We were kind of just playing around in the hospital. My brother was 13 at the time, so even if I at 6 didn't understand what was going on, my brother certainly did, but he wasn't concerned, and neither was I, and that wasn't fault of our own. It was just the way that we were brought up in an environment in which someone was always seeking medical attention for one reason or another. So around the time that my mom got her breasts removed, that's when I kind of started seeing signs of depression in myself, and questioning the validity of all of her hospitalizations and diseases and things that she said that she was battling on a daily basis, since as far as I remember. So Mama was really on board with, she didn't understand my reason why, but she was really on board with bringing me to these facilities to find out what was the reason for my depression or what could have been the cure. She was kind of really big on that. But not only did my mom have Munchausen's, she had Munchausen's by proxy, and proxy means substitute. So instead of acting on themselves, they act on someone that is kind of hopeless to them, like it's usually a parent onto their child, or maybe spouse, but most likely child, because they are hopeless without their parents. So I remember bits and pieces of my childhood as far as my mom doing that, but mostly just giving me unprescribed pills like Valium when I was 6, and she did that because I was afraid of flying on airplanes. But if you really think about it, Valium for a 6-year-old is probably not a good idea, even if it is prescribed. So when I was eventually diagnosed when I was 17 with bipolar disorder, I was kind of hesitant to take medications and seek therapy and things like that because I didn't want to be seen as my mom. I didn't want to be seen as someone that relied on any kind of system of a health thing or a hospitalization thing, or just medicine, because I didn't want to be seen as someone that was faking it, like my mom. Hypochondria is really similar to Munchausen's, in that it's made up. There is some speculation as to whether or not people with Munchausen's really believe that they have these illnesses, or that they just exaggerate or make up, and they know that they're doing that. But hypochondria isn't as active as Munchausen's. I mean, I suppose more people do have hypochondria, but what I mean by more active is that they don't have these invasive surgeries in order to get sympathy or in order to be close with medical professionals. I think my mom has Munchausen's, probably for various reasons. I think she feels like she has nothing to do with her life, and she just likes being around people in power, and she sees doctors and physicians as people with a lot of knowledge and power in decision making and things like that. So she just wants to be a part of that. And people with Munchausen's typically know a lot about the human body and the disorders and illnesses that they claim to have. Just from being in the hospital so much and looking up things online, my mom could really talk with the doctor about different things and make jokes about things, and they'd laugh, and the doctor would be like, "Oh wow, you're so smart," and I think that just validated my mom even more. It's a serious illness, because it seems like no one would come forward with having it. Like, people with Munchausen's I think that they would say that they had anything other than Munchausen's. So that's quite interesting. But it's not as well known as anything like mood disorders or something like that. Partly because the people that do it, I don't know, it's not very, nothing is desirable, but it's not as sympathized as anything else, because it just seems like they're doing it for attention, and it's not valid. So it's just a really upsetting disease to watch and be a part of, I'm sure. And I hope there becomes more research into it and more therapies to combat it, because it's not fun for anyone involved.